Welcome back. All right. So the second series I want to preview today is the Minnesota Wild and the St. Louis Blues. This is a close matchup. This is ridiculously close. The Minnesota Wild and the St. Louis Blues, their three meetings this year were pretty close too. January 1st, St. Louis wins 6-4. April 8th, St. Louis wins in overtime 4-3. And on April 16th, St. Louis won again, this time 6-5, again in overtime. So in overtime, St. Louis wins two of them. It's not 3-on-3 in the playoffs. It's a completely different beast. I know that from the channel's perspective, 60% of the votes going to Minnesota. I see it as closer than that. So I've already previewed the Colorado-Nashville one. I don't think there's as much in the way of parity between those two teams, although I talked about how the numbers were close. The interesting thing is the numbers between these teams, really, St. Louis is way ahead in the power play side of things, 27% to 20.5% for Minnesota. Penalty kill, they're way ahead there as well, 84.1% versus 76.1%. So St. Louis has the advantage from that perspective. Again, they won all three meetings this year. But for Minnesota, is the Kaprizov effect going to take over in the playoffs, right? Goal scoring, that slightly favors St. Louis. They score 3.77 goals per game versus 3.72 goals per game for Minnesota. Goals against favors St. Louis. While St. Louis allows 2.91 goals per game, Minnesota allows on average 3.04. And that's been the question mark. Now, if we look over their overall records, 53, 22, and 7 is the record for Minnesota. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10 coming to the playoffs. They've won 2 in a row. You want to be hot entering the playoffs, and they are. At home, they're 31-8-2. So home ice advantage is important because away from home, they're 22-14-5, which, while being respectable, is nowhere near as good as the record is at home. On the St. Louis side of things, they're 49-22-11, almost 50 wins this season. Last 10 games, they're 7-2-1. They lost their last 2 in regulation. At home, 26-10-5 is their record. On the road, they're 23-12-6. So good at home, good on the road. And they're going to have to win one on the road out of the first 2, you would have to think, and then try to win it at home. Now, when we look at their playoff history, it's interesting because recent years, 2018, Minnesota lost in the first round against the Jets, 4-1, a series which my wife was disappointed in because she likes both teams, so she wanted to go a little bit longer than that. 2019, they didn't make the playoffs. 2020, they technically made the playoffs and they were in the qualifying round, but they didn't get beyond that. They lost 3-1 to the Canucks, and last year in round 1, they put up quite the fight, but they still lost in 7 games against the Vegas Golden Knights. So they gave them, a hard time and definitely didn't make it easy, but in the end, they still end up losing that series. On the St. Louis side, they didn't make the playoffs in 2018. Then they won the Stanley Cup in 2019. 2020, they lost in the first round against Vancouver. 2021, they lost in the first round against Colorado. In 2020, it was in 6 against the Canucks. Last year, it was 4 straight against Colorado, who looked like they might be a machine headed to a Stanley Cup, and then the second round happened. So again, the channel's vote, 60% of you say it's Minnesota. Minnesota's going to win it. And again, I'm not saying that won't happen, but it'll be I think, close. The key players to watch on each team, obviously, Kaprizov leads the way for Minnesota. 81 games, 47 goals, 61 assists, 108 points. Rewriting the Minnesota Wild record book, and now it's about rewriting history in the playoffs. And at the very least, changing the narrative for this team in the playoffs. Matt Zuccarello, they need him healthy. 70 games, 24 goals, 55 assists, 79 points. Arguably the best season he's ever had. Zuccarello has incredible chemistry. The amount of chemistry in this top 6 is fantastic. Matthew Boldy is one of those wild cards because he's a rookie. In 47 games, 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points. Played very, very well. And if that carries over into the playoffs, obviously that would benefit Fiala. There are other players I could have put up here, but I limited myself to 3 forwards, a defenseman, and a goaltender. I'll probably use that template going forward. Spurgeon, 65 games, 10 goals, 30 assists, 40 points. Ask any Minnesota fan, they will tell you he's the most underrated player on the blue line in the NHL, or at least close to it, and this is a series where he can show that. If he can be part of a defense that manages to shut down a team that had 9 20-goal scorers, that'll say a lot. Cam Talbot, how short is his leash? He has a record of 32, 12, and 4. His save percentage is .911, and so if he falters at all in the playoffs against St. Louis, Marc-Andre Fleury's there to take over. In St. Louis, there's a similar storyline when it comes to who's likely going to start and who's going to be the backup. But their first key player I want to talk about is Robert Thomas. 72 games, 20 goals, 57 assists, 77 points. Underrated passer? Yes. Underrated player? Probably that as well. And again, a good playoff run can get people to know about you. Tarasenko, 73 games, 34 goals, 48 assists, 82 points for him. For a guy who wanted out, and there were still discussions of whether or not he might want out throughout the season. An 82-point season is fantastic. Now, for people who want to say Seattle should have taken him, he doesn't score 82 points if he's in Seattle this year. Jordan Kyrou had an up-and-down season, but at the end, he's on the ups again. 74 games, 27 goals, 48 assists, 75 points. So, Kyrou looking forward to having a big playoff. And it's interesting because St. Louis wins the Cup 3 years ago, but there's a lot of good young talent here. So, this is a team that can absolutely go on another run. On the blue line, I want to talk about Falk. Falk had a fantastic season. 76 games, 16 goals, 31 assists, 47 points. But it's during a season where a lot of defensemen have seen the scoring come up. So for Falk, the overall general storyline is one of a player who plays quite well. Booming shot from the point. Really solid all-around defenseman. And again, it's going to be about which defense can shut down the pretty lethal offense for the other team. And then in net, it's Ville Husso, 25, 7, and 6 on the season, 919 save percentage, but he has Binnington right behind him. And we know that St. Louis will not hesitate to go to Binnington if they need to. And again, I'm taking St. Louis in this series, but only by just absolutely the smallest of margins. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to watching this year's playoffs because I think they're going to be fantastic. And this series is part of the reason why. So let me know your winner in the comment section below and why. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.